Hello everyone, welcome to the Everything Dodgeball podcast. I'm your host, Stefan Leitinger, and today I'm here with Carlos Goonting. A man, a myth, a legend from Malaysia, one of the absolute OGs, and I've got the pleasure to get to meet him in Graz in 2024 at the World Championships. And we swapped jerseys. I think I have mine somewhere around here, and I got to see him play a little bit. And yeah, it was just nice having a little bit of a chat at the after party. And so I thought now that the Asian Dodgeball Championships have been just a few weeks ago, and I really wanted to know a little bit about that and maybe get a few other pointers from you as well. So I thought this conversation is long overdue. Thank you for joining me, Carlos. And just give the listeners a little bit of an overview who you are, what you've done, what your dodgeball's careers look like, and what you're currently into. So just take it from here, Carlos.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're listening from. Carlos Goonting here from Malaysia, Dodgeball Team Malaysia member since 2016. Been playing for many, many years now. And thank you, Stefan, for having me on this podcast. Uh, Pleasure to be here, share my thoughts and experience with you. Yeah, just let me know what we want to speak about, and we can get right to it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start a little bit of your personal history, like how you got into dodgeball, what fascinated you about the game, and what you've been doing over the last 11 years or so.
Okay, so me playing dodgeball was actually a funny story. There's a backstory to it. So I used to work at 11 years, 12 years ago. I used to work at a little cafe. With we were serving breakfast foods, right? And a lot of the people that were working there were dodgeball players. So I knew nothing about dodgeball, right? So these guys, friends of mine from college and stuff. So they were like, "Oh, we all have dodgeball." Because I don't know anything about dodgeball. I grew up playing football, soccer, my whole life since the age of 7. So I've been very competitive. I've played at state level, international level at some points in terms of like football. Then when I was working at the cafe, a lot of them would be like, "Oh, we gotta go. We have dodgeball practice." So over time, during my time working part time at that cafe, they were like, "Oh, we got to go dodgeball." And then at one point, I was like quite interested to know what dodgeball was, and then I went to attend one of the league games, and then I thought like, "Wow, uh, there's an actual game, right?" Like everyone knows dodgeball from the movie by Ben Stiller. Everyone knows. Yeah, so I thought like, okay, let's and they invited me to play dodgeball a few times, and it's like, okay, when I have the time, I'll go and play. So in September 2014, I was off from my football team. We had a little year-end break, and I was after the season break, so I said, okay, I need to keep myself active. So I went and tried and play dodgeball, joined in a few open training sessions, and then after that, like, I got hooked. I said, throwing a ball, moving around, it can't be that hard, right? So I thought to myself, that's what I told myself. And I went try it out. And I said, okay, it was quite fun. I think I can pick up this sport. So I continued on playing. After after a few sessions, I found out that I had some friends who were playing on the national team in that year or the following year on the national team. So basically, they were like saying, "Oh, we were specifically talking about Wisheng because towards the year end of 2014, I found out that he was going to represent Malaysia at Las Vegas in the World Championships at Las Vegas in 2015. So Wisheng is a good friend of mine. We we practiced athletics back together in high school level, right? So I told myself, if Wisheng can make the national team, I think it won't be too difficult for me to pick it up and make the national team too. So because I'm very competitive that way. Like I don't like being told that I can't do something. So eventually, I caught up, and after a year of playing, after a season, I made it to the national team in 2016. So that was the start
Awesome.
of my national team career.
Okay. Love it. So, and how did it go from there? When did you switch over from football to more dodgeball, or how is it currently? Are you still playing football, or at what level?
Okay, so back then when I started playing dodgeball, I was at university. I was still studying in university, right? I was doing college, I was doing university level, and then I was still juggling between football and dodgeball. So I would split my time, and because when you're around 20 something ish, you have a lot of energy, and you'll be like, okay, I want to play football, I want to play dodgeball, so I split my time between those. And just about 3 years ago, I decided that I want to commit fully to dodgeball.
Okay.
So before then,
Okay. And at
before then
what
there was a
level
lot
did you
of
play?
balancing between.
Yeah. Okay. And at what level did you play football at that time?
uh, at that time, I was in 2022, I was playing, I guess you can say, a very competitive amateur level, which is, I would say, close to a semi-pro level maybe in Malaysia. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
there
And
was a lot of like social
okay.
teams competing in like the state leagues and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And back then in 2014, when you started playing dodgeball, what was the dodgeball scene like in Malaysia? How big was dodgeball back then?
Uh, we have we had a lot of teams back then, because in Malaysia, dodgeball started, or it grew among universities. So like we had inter college tournaments, inter university tournaments. So what that did for us is that the universities had somewhat like a responsibility to kind of like get numbers in, get students to join, and then they would have their programs, and they would compete in the campus dodgeball league and stuff like that. So it was, majority of the dodgeball players back then were made of students from universities and
Mm.
colleges, which have now grown into adults.
Okay, and like from 2014 to now, what kind of difference is in the dodgeball scene? Is it still mainly from colleges? Is there like, I don't know how the structure of sports is in Malaysia. So how do you develop your kids? Are you doing that over the schools, over college, over individual clubs, or how does that work?
For the beginning portion of like my playing career, most of the players that I knew that were coming into dodgeball were mainly college or university students, right? That was up
Mhm.
until like 2016, 17, 18. We had a lot of students coming in, and then eventually, there were a lot of individuals that were a bit more enthusiastic, and they were more like, okay, let's grow the sport to more than just college students or like recreational level. So what they did was they went to schools and started dodgeball in schools, have school programs. And back then, like, uh, we had a lot of like youngsters coming in, but they were on the more, how I would say, maybe 15, 16 year olds, because
Mm.
they get closer to college level, right? So but now, what difference what the difference is now is that we have school programs. So we have school programs that cater to secondary level, which is 13 to 17, or we also have primary level programs, which is as young as 7 year olds to 12-year olds. We now have all these things planned out and being carried out by individuals and groups and companies. Like personally, I work for a company that does dodgeball development at school level, whether it's early years, childhood, or we do it primary, lower primary, upper primary, which is like 6 to 8 years old or 9 to 12 years old. We have all age groups now.
Okay, and so it's basically in different structures or different people just building their own thing, or is that a Dodgeball Malaysia thing, or is that a schools and colleges thing, or is it a mix of all of those?
I think it's a mix of all of those, but I think because Malaysia is, I would say, pretty small in terms of like the how big our country is, right? It's pretty small. Everything is centralized. For us to get to the next state is less than 2 hours. When I know
Yeah.
if like you're in Australia, it takes you a flight to the next state, or if you're in the US, it takes like I don't know how many hours drive just to the next state, right? So I think it's because that everything is quite centralized, I would say. Like we have that opportunity to grow at a much higher rate. So the only two countries that I know that does dodgeball coachings in school level at the moment is only Malaysia and Hong Kong.
Mm.
So if you follow Malaysian dodgeball, you'll see like we frequently have tournaments for the youth, like under 17s, under 15s. Hong Kong, if you follow them, they have programs which are really good because you see them having tournament. I don't know, it's so frequent. I can't tell whether it was the same tournament, whether it's the different tournament, but they have all these programs in line. And I think if we want to achieve what we set out to achieve, all of these programs need to be done. But I know, being such a big country, like it limits that. And if everyone lives far away, then like you'd have to kind of like uh, have multiple people in multiple regions, multiple areas to like make this thing happen. So it's
Mhm.
easier for us
Yeah,
here
for
because
sure.
everything is centralized. Yeah.
Yeah. But still seems like there is a lot of individual work put in to make that happen. But because like in Austria, it's also probably way smaller. I don't even know how big is the population of Malaysia. So how many people do you have?
I
An
would have
estimate.
to uh, I would have to check for you. I mean, according to Google, it says
Okay.
34 million
So
people.
that's
Yeah.
okay, that's probably small for Asian standards, but that's still like 4 times what we have in Austria. So
Yeah.
Austria is way smaller than that. And so, but still, it's not easy just because it's small to get that kind of structure built up and getting people into schools and getting programs like that. So I think that's also probably something that your sort of educational system is built for or is very open to. So in Austria, we're also starting to get youth programs and starting
Yep.
stuff in school, and but like the numbers are tiny, tiny, tiny compared to what I see over there in Malaysia. So that looks like it's on a way different level. So what would be an estimate of how many people are actively like participating in dodgeball right now in Malaysia? What would you say would be
Uh,
an educated guess?
I would say we definitely have over 1,000 people that are active right now. But I would say
Mhm.
over a year, I think we could see like maybe a couple thousand players that are actually in the community participating in events and so on.
Yeah. So that's definitely way bigger. And so how is it structured with trainings, with leagues, with clubs, tournaments? How is the structure in Malaysia? How do you get from an open gym or maybe a college or a student's class where you play some dodgeball to playing dodgeball for a club or at the international level?
Okay, so I will go from I'd say I'd explain from the top down. Okay,
Yeah.
so at the international level, so if we pick players to represent the country, it will be from our NDC team. So NDC is called it's our National Dodgeball Championship. So
Hmm.
basically, in a year, we will have one season where we will spend about maybe 10 to 12 weeks. I'd say about 10 weeks on regular, where teams compete with each other in their respective divisions. So the highest division would be the NDC, and then the second division, it would be the amateur league, and then the lowest would be the rookies league. So rookies league are supposedly for players who have little to no experience, which is 2 years of competitive experience and below. So usually once you're past
Hmm.
that 2 years threshold, like you would have to move up to, at the very least, you have to play in the amateur. Yeah. So that is
As a team or
for
as a
the,
player?
as an individual, as
Hmm.
an
Okay.
individual. So like you are eligible to play in the rookies league if you are, you bring someone in, you bring a friend who does not know anything about dodgeball. If he's good enough, you can put him in the NDC right away, which is not an issue. But at the
Hmm.
worst, he can join in a team that will participate in the rookies league.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's like supposed to be a bit more of a friendly, beginner friendly kind of league, but the truth is it's not very beginner friendly in Malaysia because it's very very competitive, even from
Okay.
the rookies level. Yeah, so that's for the men's side. But unfortunately for the women's side, because we don't have too many active teams or players, or we don't have enough, so the women's only have like one division, which is the NDC. So it kind
Hmm.
of forces newer players, like the females, the girls, to like, hey, like you gotta be good, because the only league that you can play in will be in the NDC, and that's where you play
Hmm.
with and against players that are maybe 5, maybe 10 years of experience playing dodgeball, and you imagine yourself as a newbie and you have to play against these people. Like it's going to be really really tough. Yeah.
Okay. And
So
on the
in
youth
in one
side?
season, yeah, so in one season we will have like these 4 categories being played over the span of 10 weeks, right? So the best
Hmm.
players from like the NDC, the best performing players that year for the NDC, the men's and the women's, right, they will be shortlisted into a selection program, and from there we'll pick players to get into the national squad. Yeah.
Hmm.
So for the youth side of things, our association frequently holds under 18, under 15 tournaments for whoever that is of that age to come and participate. It does not necessarily have to be from the same club. It doesn't have to be from the same school. You can just form a team and you can go and play. That is for the youth side.
Okay.
And the company that I work with, it's called Prime Dodgeball. We have a tournament that we hold every 3 months. So it's about 3 to 4 times a year, where schools will compete amongst one another in like a 1 day
Okay.
event. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's for
Okay.
youth level.
Okay. Okay. And like at NDC level and rookies level and amateur level, in on the men's side at least, how many teams are in each league?
We have, I think, about 10 teams in the NDC this year. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was about 10 teams. So you play about 18 games throughout 10 weeks.
Hmm.
For the women's, I might be wrong with the numbers. I can't recall the exact numbers,
Yeah,
but I'm
it's
pretty sure
just an
there's about,
estimate. It's
that's,
fine.
yeah, there's about 10 in the men's side, and probably 8 to 10 on the women's side for the NDC level, the highest level. And then for the amateur, we have probably another 10, maybe more. For the rookies, we have uh, 10, maybe more.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, man, that sounds like a well-developed structure. So, um, what, basically, how do I want to put this? So, if you play only 10 weeks in that kind of league, what do you do the rest of the year if you're an NDC player?
Okay, so usually NDC happens around, based on the past years, they start around March or April. So it'll run for about 2.5, 3 months. So the first 3 months of the year, people will be preparing, and every now and then we will have open tournaments where cash prizes are up for grabs. So
Okay.
teams will participate. But for most part, these open tournaments, they are co-ed tournaments.
Hmm.
For most part, these tournaments are co-ed tournaments because it'll be, in a way, it's easier to kind of like get numbers in, like for participants. So we'd have about maybe 30, maybe to 40 teams, depending on how attractive the prize money is up for grabs. Yeah. So we would have maybe a couple of those in the first 3 months of the year, and then we'll go through the league, and then we'll have a short break, and then we'll have like our grand finals. So grand finals basically. So sorry, getting back to the NDC, that's only NDC Selangor, means where I am at, the state that I am in. That's the league. That's the biggest league that we have in Malaysia. So what
Hmm.
happens is that the top two, depending on what the quota is for the grand finals, uh, it's maybe the top 2 to 4 teams will qualify into the grand finals, and each state will send a representative or two to compete in the grand finals. So basically, you kind of like, it's like a Champions League, you know.
Yeah,
Like you would have to
that's good.
you have to win the first 2 slots for you to
Hmm.
participate in the
Okay.
grand finals. So the grand finals is our national championship.
And how many teams are
Uh,
there? So, how many regions and teams?
so active states we have about, I'd say, about 3 or 4, but there are state teams that do not have leagues, but they send participants as well.
Hmm.
So we could end up like, let's say, if it's the NDC grand finals for the men's division, it would have maybe 6 to 8 teams, and on the women's side would be
Hmm.
maybe 6 teams. Yeah. And then they also have like,
Okay.
for the NDC grand finals, we also have co-ed category, because usually we only focus on gendered divisions for the NDC, for the state,
Hmm.
but only for the grand finals is where we have our co-ed finals as well.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. And okay, so basically like the NDC, you said your region is the biggest and has the biggest league, and basically people are picked for the national squad from that league, or are they picked from the grand finals as well, or the other regions as well?
Okay, so based on what and how we have been running it, because most of the trainings are done here in the central area, which is Selangor and KL. We have like, out of 10 players, 12 players on the squad, like 10 or 11 of them would be from here, and then we'd have maybe 1 or 2
Mhm.
from other states.
Okay,
So
so it's
we do pay attention to these well performing players at NDC grand finals as well. So sometimes, like,
mhm.
we either have like open tryouts where players from other states can come and try and see if they have what it takes. So we're not shutting out the idea of having people out of state to come and represent the country. So in our
Okay.
last ADC, which was like a few weeks ago, we had multiple people from the northern states to come and play for the national team.
Mhm. Okay, and is like the growth of dodgeball very centralized, but is are the other regions also picking up, or is dodgeball growing there as well?
I would say we have very responsible and very enthusiastic people in other states as well. I know in East Malaysia we have like a few players who are really keen on like growing dodgeball, so they're doing whatever they can. Sometimes they reach out to me and ask for advice, and I would give it to them. And they just ask, kind of like, ask for ideas, like what can we do if this arises, like what do we do, yada yada yada. So I think dodgeball in all states, in the states that have dodgeball, they're doing their best to kind of like grow it. I think that is the most important thing.
That makes sense. Okay, and
Yeah.
like you said, there are tournaments with cash prize money. Like, what are we talking about? What sort of prize um, prizes can you win, and how much do you have to pay to enter such a tournament?
Okay, so the last one that I played was 3 weeks ago, 2 weekends ago. So I played with my old team. They're called Goat. I don't know if you've seen the post. So
Yeah.
we had like me and a few other guys that have been playing dodgeball for maybe 10 years as well. And we have been teammates for 3 years, 2022, 2023, 2024. Uh, so we played in a tournament. The entry fee, because it was a 2 day tournament, the entry fee was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 600 ringgit.
Hmm.
600 ringgit is
Like
125
100
euros for
euros.
you. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
125 euros is not a huge amount. And the first place was 800 euros, 4,000 ringgit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that one was decent, but if you think
Hmm.
about it, if you split, it's still about like 100 euros per person if you win.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but that's like decent cash price for like
For a 2 day tournament,
the amount you
it's all
make.
right.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay. And how many teams are there? How competitive is a tournament like that?
I think, if not mistaken, that tournament had about uh, six, six, seven, 12, about 20 teams. Just
Hmm.
just in the men's category, there were 20 teams, separated into three pools,
Yeah.
and then women's had about, I think less, half of that number, spread into two
Hmm.
pools.
Okay. And basically, so the prize money comes from the entry fees, or is there like
The entry
sponsorship
fees.
or anything else that goes? Okay.
So for most part, our open tournaments here, the prize money comes from the entry fees for most
Hmm.
part. So when I pay, how a tournament works here is that each team will pay an X amount, right, for the entry, and all this money will go towards a pool, and from this pool you pay your court rental, you pay for buying new balls, you pay the refs, and you pay for the prize money. Basically, this.
Hmm. Okay. And do you get any money for hosting a tournament? So if you put up a tournament, do you get money as well as the host
Uh,
for
as the
organizing it?
host, depending on how much you collect and how much you put out, like the balance is yours.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so because we don't have prize monies in Austria and Europe, I think at
Yep,
least I don't
yep,
know of any. I know in the States they have a few or had a few, at least in the past. I don't
yep.
know how it's currently at. But so I'm just wondering how are those tournament compared to usual leagues? So because obviously, like if you pay 100 euros or 600 ringgits and you get 4,000, that is sort of a lot of money. So basically, the incentives are quite different, and probably like the competitiveness and stuff like
Yeah.
this changes as well. Do you feel like those tournaments play different? Like on a fairness level or stuff like that?
Okay. I'm might be a bit controversial about this. I think for open tournaments, we have seen teams that may or not have been too fair on their end because there's a lot of cash prize at stake,
Mm,
and sometimes it's not a very nice sight to see. Yeah, everyone wants to win,
yeah.
but there are certain, I wouldn't say teams, I would say individuals. I wouldn't want to blame a team. There are certain individuals that uh, would not prefer to play fair, if that makes sense.
Mhm, mhm. And how is that like? Because that's what I think is a really big problem, or maybe a difficulty in dodgeball. If you like put it to a level where you play for prize money and stuff like that, how do you
Yeah,
enforce fair play, and how do you handle people who cheat to get an advantage? And how do you ref that? Like, do you have any sort of system where people like that get penalized for playing not fair, or how is that handled?
I think for specifically for like open tournaments with prize money, mostly because they're run like in one day, like there's not much action that can be taken. Let's compare it to a league situation, right?
Mhm,
Most open tournaments do not have video recordings or live streams. Most don't have. Whereas our leagues, we have videos. If you search up
mhm,
on YouTube Dodgeball Malaysia, you can see a lot of league games, which team versus which team, and so on, right? So in a league, when individuals feel like the other team was not taking the outs or whatsoever, they can report an incident by clipping a certain timestamp on that specific match, and they can submit it to the disciplinary committee,
mhm.
and players can get action taken against them.
And what kind of
Whereas
action
we
would that be?
uh, it would be like a ban, like a match
Mhm,
ban, like a two match ban, like a red card offense in a way.
mhm,
So we have had like those in the past where players would submit their complaint, or about a certain individual where they have not been playing fairly, or but sometimes it's very difficult to tell because like may or may not be like a perfect camera angle, and
mhm.
sometimes video angles make it worse than it seems. Yeah, so for most part, it's been a bit difficult, especially with an open tournament where it's a day off affair, but we don't have the luxury of having to report this sort of incidents. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So most of the time, we just have to respect what the refs call at the end of the day.
Okay. And how because obviously I don't know how that is, but to me that seems like it could get out of hand quite easily. So how many refs do you have, and like how is the are there situations where it gets a little bit out of hand or maybe too heated? Because obviously, like if there is a final or a semi-final where you play for a lot of money and someone thinks you cheated or someone cheats, and the refs may call it or call it wrong or call it right, and someone feels treated
Yeah,
unfairly. Um, how do those situations play out, or is that an issue? Because it seems to me like that would very easily be a big issue.
you're right. You're absolutely right. We have a lot of experiences in the past where things get heated because, for example, if I'm playing against you and my view would be, okay, it looked like it clipped you clearly, right? But
Yeah.
you are saying no, right? For example, and the refs could be like, oh, we didn't see it. Oh, we didn't catch that. So it would be very difficult to handle.
Yeah.
It's a common thing that we have gone through. Uh, but I don't think it's something that we have addressed entirely. It's going to pop up from time to time, but we obviously we would want to think that the players are being as honest as they can be, like taking their outs. They're trying to be as fair as they can, but sometimes it happens, and I don't know. We just like there's not much we can do because, like personally, I'm a very hot tempered guy. Like if I play
Mm,
and if I think my opponents cheat, like I get angry, I get upset, right? Which
yeah.
is fair. But sometimes like it doesn't help the situation like at all. Like it can't be done. Like if the ref don't catch it and he can't call it, then like what can I do?
Yeah. Okay, and how many refs do you have like in an open tournament? Is it one ref? Is it four refs? Is it six refs?
Okay, so usually for like group stages and like in the early stages of the tournament, we would have usually a minimum of two refs to one court,
Hmm.
and then as the tournament progresses on, we would have three on the court. Maybe we'd have four. Sometimes we would have six.
Yeah, because I think that's definitely a big issue, like with dodgeball, as you said before. Like it's one of the sports where you have more than one ball, so it's really tough to
Yep.
focus on everything and see everything. And as a ref, even if there
Yep.
are six refs, there are so many situations out of experience that don't get seen or get seen incorrectly. And there have been so many issues or
Yeah.
situations in the past where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that hit him, or I'm pretty sure that bounced, or I'm pretty sure that ball made this. And afterwards, I watch it on video and it's entirely different. So for me personally, I've just decided
Yes.
that if I'm not 100% sure, then I have no opinion on it because I
Yep.
don't know. And if it happened 2 seconds ago, and like I'm not 100% sure that it hit him or he blocked it, I'm like, I have no idea what happened because um, I've just been I've just seen too often that I personally don't see a lot of stuff. And sometimes I'm really sure and I'm still wrong. So, and as you said before, camera angles and video quality and stuff like that also makes it really tough often to see completely with 100% certainty whether it was a block, whether it bounced first, whether it touched someone. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
it's at this point at the level where dodgeball is, and probably in Malaysia, like the streaming quality, I haven't seen any streams to be honest from there, but like our streaming quality is quite decent, but it's still so tough to see like that fine details. And sometimes even when you're
Yes.
100% sure, if you look at the video, it's really, really tough to see. And so I personally think like
Yep.
that the integrity of the game and the integrity of players and honesty is such an integral part of dodgeball that for me personally
Yeah.
it's a non-negotiable to make the sport work basically. And without it, it just becomes so fast something that is so toxic and contemptuous, where you just have to sort of enforce your belief by shouting at someone. Because if you think you hit him and he thinks he
Yep.
wasn't hit, then and if the ref didn't see it, what can we do? We can shout about it, but the thing is,
What do you
yeah,
do? Yeah.
exactly.
What do
So
you do? Yeah.
no one knows. So I personally, because we don't play for money, and I think that's a really big difference. Because once you start playing for money, then it's much harder to take those outs and be as responsible with honesty, and
Yep.
the incentives are just so
Yep.
different. If you like let your team down because it touched your hair and you're like, ah, no one saw that, no one will see it on a camera, so fuck it, I'm just gonna stay in. But I think
Yeah.
that is such a dangerous road for our sports, in my opinion at least. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just always very curious in how stuff like this is really handled and how you enforce it, because I've heard it from a lot of US players back in the days where there was trampoline dodgeball and there were $10,000 or more on the line, that like the
Yep.
integrity and
That was
honestly
crazy. Yep.
deteriorated really fast.
Yep.
And so that is something I think where the sport really needs to really get a handle on it, how we gonna manage that for the future. once the sport gets to different levels and in the long run to the Olympics. And I think at some point we're gonna have maybe the resources to do video refing or something like that, and that's gonna make it easier. But I think we're far
Yeah.
from there. And up to that point, I have no better way than to really enforce honesty and integrity in the game. So, um, well, that was my rant. So, how do you like
Yeah.
handle
It's
that?
a very difficult. Yeah, it's a very difficult topic. You know, if you play with integrity, right? You do want to win as well, but your opponent don't. That puts you in a very difficult situation,
Yeah,
right? Like you'd be like, oh shit, this guy's not taking his out. Like, why should I?
yeah,
If the ball scraped my finger, like, why should I stay on? Right? Like that. It's I don't know. It's very difficult to say because I've come across this a lot of times.
yeah,
I've had guys like fist my ball in a foam game because I don't play cloth. I only
yeah,
play foam, right? He like kind of like just fist my ball, right? Like, and he just stays on, calls it a block,
yeah,
and refs be like, "Nah, he blocked it." I'm like, "Oh, but you hold the ball in this way, and it comes through you. Like, what do you mean that's a block?"
yeah,
So like,
yeah. Which
it's a really big situation. Like it's very difficult. Like what do we do from here? That is always the question. Would the question be erased entirely if we remove blocking altogether?
yeah,
It is called dodgeball after all, right?
yeah. Yeah, I love no block in foam. I think that is a really fun
Yeah,
variation of the game that I personally think is really awesome. Still, blocking is also a skill and really entertaining. I personally, I've said it on this podcast a few times. I really don't like finger blocking because of this reason in
yeah,
particular. Because I think I get it that it's tough for people to get players out if they can finger block. But on the other side, it's just so impossible to ref, at least in my opinion. I don't see it. I mean, you're a much more experienced foam player, and apparently you can hear and see that. I can't. I have even a hard time feeling
yeah.
it
I
as
can
of
tell. I
now.
can tell the difference.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
a lot of players who are very experienced tell me that they can tell the difference. I personally can't. So I just believe you. But still, I think it's something that is so tough to ref if you have many balls. Whether and you're gonna just make more ref discretion or mistakes into the game if you rely on the refs. So either you rely on players taking their outs, which is fine, but obviously if the incentives are in a way where you sort of at a
high. Yeah,
disadvantaged if you're really an honest player, and it makes no sense. And I think that's like the toxic spiral, which is the most dangerous thing, where you're
yeah,
like, I think you cheated, so I'm gonna cheat as well, because why wouldn't I? I'm not stupid. And I think that's something that always gonna
yeah,
happen in
yeah,
dodgeball, because there is always a lot of situations, even in a cloth game, where it's the ball is slower and it's easier to block it. There are still always
yeah,
situations where I'm like, I think I hit him, but he stayed in. So either I'm gonna trust my judgment, which I personally don't, because I know it's completely wrong and I have no idea. So I just decided to trust my opponent, but it's easy because it's not about money, and I'm
yeah,
still in a position where I'm mostly still gonna win. So it's maybe a very privileged position where I'm in, where I'm like, I can sort of uh, take this fancy way of saying, I'm just gonna be fine with you, and next time I'm gonna hit you in the head. And that is something I personally can do, but probably not everyone can in this
yeah,
way. And so it's an issue. And so I think we try to counter it by really trying to install those values into our youth players and into our beginners, that we're from the
yeah,
very onset on really strict with them, with taking their outs, and also like appreciating people for being honest, and sort of making
yeah,
that
yeah,
a really estimated value in the community. But I think it's really hard to
yeah,
maintain that once there is money involved, because it's really nice if that is sort
yeah,
of like integrity is the currency of the community. But once money is the currency,
Yeah.
then that goes out the window really fast. And as you said,
Yep.
even if
100%.
you are
Yeah.
an honest player and your opponent is not, or you think he's not, then it's going to be really tough to stick to your honesty, because as you said, we're all very competitive people, and it's not easy by any way to take certain outs, even if it's for nothing. Even in training, sometimes when something clips me, and I personally, I'm like, "Phew," and I really have to force myself to acknowledge it and not be like, who, what does it matter?
Yeah.
But it's like something that you
Yeah.
constantly have sort of to train. It's like a muscle that you have to
Yeah.
train, where you're like, no, this touched me, I'm gonna step out. And if you don't do that on a
Yep.
regular basis, you slip.
Yeah.
And
You slip. Yeah. And it's easy to fall to the
yeah,
dark side. It's just like, oh, ref didn't call me.
yeah,
I'm safe.
absolutely. And so the
Like, yeah.
incentives are so stacked against you. And then the only thing
Yeah.
basically that you have is video evidence. And as you said, that's a really double-edged sword currently, at least. If we have ultra
Yep.
high
Yep.
HD multi-angle video, then we
Yeah.
can talk about it.
If we have on court
Yeah,
VAR,
yeah,
there'll be a different
absolutely.
different story.
Absolutely. But the amount of
Yeah.
videos I've seen where someone was like, "Ooh, he cheated," and then you see the next angle and it's like it bounced
The
10
video.
meters
Yeah.
away, and you're like,
Yeah.
"What's happening here?"
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a really, really slippery slope as well. But yeah, I think it's something dodgeball has to
Yeah.
figure out, and I think that's something where foam is even tougher than cloth at this point, with more balls and
Yeah.
finger
It is.
blocking
It
and
is.
faster throws and curveballs and stuff like that, where
Faster throws. Yep.
it's just
Yep.
impossible in my opinion. But yeah, it's always interesting to at least argue about it. But yeah,
Yes.
so the situation, would you say it's still, because I think I saw a social media post from Dodgeball Malaysia where there was like an open letter regarding that sort of topic. I think there was like no context given, but it was sort of everybody please play fair. Do you have anything to say to that? I have no idea
Yeah.
what the context to that is, but maybe you have more insights on that end.
Okay. Let me just search up. I think it was
I saw it on the Insta page of Matt Dodgeball, I think.
Matt. Yeah.
Matt, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking it up because I also realized we post so many things because like in Malaysia, like there are a lot of things that happen on a yearly basis.
Yeah,
So we have a lot of posts to go on. Like we get featured quite often
yeah,
on like newspapers and so on. Like I would say, we might be going a little bit off topic, but I would say dodgeball is getting the sort of recognition for our exposure,
yeah,
but not necessarily in terms of funding,
yeah,
which is fair because we're not football, we're not badminton. These are the core sports in Malaysia,
mhm,
right? So we don't get funding just because we ask for it and just because we have results. This is my experience
yeah,
from the last 10 years, right? We do have a lot of good results. Personally, since since I've been here in Malaysian dodgeball since 2014. I think the community has grown so much,
yeah,
right? And we have a lot of issues that we handle from time to time. And in terms of like where we were and where we are now, we have been in since 2016. I think that's 8 international finals that we've been in.
yeah,
So 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Before COVID, that's 5 years in a row in the World Championships finals. 2022 World Finals, 2023 Asia Finals, 2024 World Finals, 2025 Asian Finals. So that's 9,
yeah,
and we've won a number of them. So if we're looking for results, we have results. Yeah, I just opened up the the letter.
Yeah.
So it was about saying about like, oh, from day one the honor system was still and will always be the fundamental principle of dodgeball. Is about having integrity, being honest, respectful, and sportsmanship. Yeah, as we are and have been in recent years gaining momentum and recognition in the world arena of dodgeball, we would like to reinforce the importance of upholding the principles of the honor system. Yeah, I mean, from time to time, um, from what I've seen, like the players, like integrity is number two.
Mm,
I've seen it not just like locally. I've also seen it internationally. I won't be calling names out, but like it's not a very nice thing to see. Okay,
yeah.
I'm I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I will tell you, in my earlier days of playing, I have cheated, right? That's because,
Yeah.
in a way, like I was not shown what dodgeball was about.
Yeah.
And when I grew from going to worlds after worlds, I don't do it anymore. For most part, I take my outs as I know them. I mean, there can be certain situations where I do not know, right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that
For
I'm
sure.
entirely perfect. Okay, like I said, this is going to be a bit controversial, right? Some people
Yeah.
may not agree with me, but I play in a way that okay, I'll do my best. I'll take my outs because that's what makes me sleep at night.
Yeah.
Winning, winning is secondary because like if you cheat and you win, like no one will respect you anyway. So there's no point of winning.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. For sure. So I think definitely, like on my end, it changed a lot because I came out of handball where cheating is just a part of the game where you try to bend the rules as far as possible. And like it's really on the refs to call you out for stuff. And you try to do everything up to that
Right.
line to get an.
How do you cheat?
Hmm?
How do you cheat in handball?
No, you don't cheat, but you like bend the rules. Like you cheat. You don't really cheat, but you try to be as physical as possible and get an advantage in a physical way where
Okay.
you like hold your opponents, hit your opponents, pinch your opponents, shove your
Okay.
opponent.
Okay.
So sort of
So
like
those. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's like there is a very fine
Is
line between what is a foul and what is handball. So basically, it's a very physical
understand.
sport.
Understand.
So the rules aren't completely clear always. So it's often up to the refs, and like
Right.
just try to get as
Understand.
much advantage. But it's very different. Like if the ball is in the goal, then it's a goal, and in between that there is a
Yeah.
lot of
Correct.
room, and the ref is a part of that game. And in football, it's the same. Like you try to sometimes oversell a foul, like body contact, you fall
Yeah.
dramatically, and it's part of the
Yeah.
game. And it really relies on the ref. And
Yeah.
afterwards, you say the ref was shit or the ref was good. But the thing is, in dodgeball, we realized
Yeah.
very fast because it was a very tiny community that if you play that way and that you try to gain advantages by playing on the edge of fairness, that it gets really,
Yeah.
really, really bad in the community because you know each other and you play against each other, and the sport doesn't work that way. Like in handball, it works that way because you have a ref,
Yeah.
and in the end, everyone can complain about the ref, and you can complain about the opponent, but since it's the ref's job to say what is right and what is not right, it's okay, and everyone knows that. But in dodgeball, the thing is, everyone knows what is right and what is wrong, but the ref doesn't see everything. And so you can sort of
Correct.
bend the yeah.
But in this case, yeah. But in this case, would you say that our refs should be better?
Yeah,
This is a big talking
yeah,
point
yeah, for sure.
because it is important to be like the players have to be upholding their integrity, right? That's one part, right? Should the refs enforce? That
So
is the question.
so in my opinion, but again, that's coming from me as as a person who doesn't see shit. So I would take this with a
Yeah.
lot of salt, a grain of salt. So personally, I just realized
Yeah.
I don't see a lot, and so I thought in the past that I
Okay.
see a lot, and I think I see certain things, but I
Yeah.
also realized that there's a lot I don't see, and that I don't remember from 2 seconds ago. And so I think it's very important that our refs are good and that they uphold the rules and that they are very clear on which line they travel. So some people, maybe like in Clough, you cannot roll the ball back once you're hit out. So, and some refs will be very
Yeah.
strict with that, and you have to lay it down in the spot. And if it rolls 10 centimeters back, they can give you a yellow card. And others are like, the most important thing for a ref in a dodgeball game is to like handle the game pace and be very clear on the lines. What is like the right etiquette? What is the right game play? What is the right speed of the game? How fast do you call play ball and stuff like that? But I think it's really important that the outs are firstly taken by the players.
Yeah, you are.
And the reason why I think that is because it's very tough for refs to see that. And if you don't take it as a player, you're out, and you don't take it when you get clipped or once you block yourself, then if you don't do that and rely on the ref, then it's also on the ref to decide whether that was a hit or not. And the ref's not gonna feel it and see it as good as you yourself. So you up
Yeah.
for their discretion, and if they're not that good or if they didn't have the perfect angle, you're also gonna be put out for hits that weren't hits. And I think that is really something that is not good for the game, where like the ref decides whether it was a hit or
Yeah.
not. Because I would say in 99% of the time,
That
the player
is
knows.
correct.
And so I think dodgeball in a perfect world would be played without refs, but that's not going to happen. And I don't want that. So I think we need the refs to control the lines, to control pace of play, and control situations where no one knows what happened. Then we need a ref to make a decision. Whether it was the right decision or not, well, shit's going to happen.
A
But
decision, a bad decision is still better than no decision. What do
yeah,
you think?
definitely, definitely. I don't like it when refs stop the game every 2 seconds and move together, and everyone is in a huddle, and everyone is like, "I didn't see a thing. Did you see a thing? What
Yep.
happened
Yep.
there?" And then they come to a decision after 10 minutes because no one knew what happened. I much
Yep.
rather have them make the decision right away. But
Yep.
that's where I think the refs should be better in the future, and that's something for them to progress on. But I
I
think it's
understand.
always gonna rely on individuals to make the sport watchable and playable. And at some point, maybe AI and video can tell everyone who is out to get out, and we have little like tiny lamps that go red once you're hit or stuff
Yeah.
like that. But as I said, we're far from that. And yeah, I think it's really important also to emphasize how tough it is to play fair. And I've been in this sport for a long time, and I think personally, like my incentives to play fair are really high because I'm well known. Everyone watches stuff that I do. Lots of my game is on video, and like winning a game is not that important in my situation, but losing my reputation might be much more costly. So, like, my
Yes.
incentives to play fair are quite easy, in my opinion. But if you're an up and comer, you try to prove yourself, you try to get maybe that last spot on an international squad, maybe you just try to get some recognition, then the incentives are absolutely stacked against you, and you're gonna maybe be easier with cheating or stuff like that. And I completely understand that because that's, yeah, the incentives are just different. And so it's much more important for the community and your opponents and your teammates to uphold that value, and also like emphasize how important it is and appreciate it. If someone is playing fair, you need to appreciate it as a dodgeball community in sort, so that this is a main currency, so that it's like the value of you as a player is on the one hand how good you are as a player, but on the other hand how fair and in uh, integrity, I don't
Yep.
know what's the
Yep.
word, how how
How you
how
uphold
high
your
your,
integrity. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So that, in my opinion, should be the two measures by which you should be measured as a dodgeball player.
Yeah.
And
That is
that's
fair.
and that it's something that I've only learned over the last year. So I would say I was, as far as I can remember, and I really am not good at that, but I think of myself as a quite fair player. But still, I know in the past there were certain situations where I definitely didn't take my out, and I will take my out now. But as I said, the pressure on me is much higher. But having said that, it was like a few weeks ago we had a team, a league meet, and there was a very tough, tight game against Wolfpack, and it was like the second to last set or something, and the ball from my opponent, Luke, he hit me on my block, and it just sort of ripped my finger a bit away from the block, and then it hit me on the shoulder. And I was
Okay.
in that situation 100% certain that it didn't hit me, that it just hit my finger and my block, and then I didn't feel anything after that. And then I watched it
Okay.
later and I got called out and I was like, okay, I was not hit out in that situation. And then I watched it on video later and I was clearly hit out. So I have to
Okay.
sort of step off my high horse, because before that I always said you feel everything that hits you. And in some situations, players have told me that they don't feel everything. And so there are some situations where like you fall to the floor in the same situation where the ball hits you, and I'm like, okay, probably you're not gonna feel that. But before that situation, I thought everything else you feel it. If it touches my shoelaces or my hair or my shirt, I feel it. And in that situation, it hit my block, it hit my finger, it ripped my finger off, it hurt like a mother, and
Yeah.
it also hit my shoulder. And I did not remember it hitting my shoulder, and it clearly did. So there's no discussion about it. So it was the right call by the ref in that decision. But I personally would not have taken the out because I thought I wasn't hit. So I think it's also important in some situations to give your opponents a little bit of leeway, because probably not in 100% of the cases, they're gonna feel everything, and that's where we have the refs for, and that's where you also have the trust of your opponent. And if my opponent says he clearly hit me and I'm not 100% sure and I didn't see it and I trust him, then I'm gonna take my out. If I don't trust him, I won't. And if the ref tells me to go out, then obviously I go out. And sometimes I think, that was a wrong decision, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, so I think it's just important to value honesty, but also be very realistic and also be not too judgmental about it, because it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for a competitive person that wants to win, or maybe wants to win money, or there's other stuff on the line for you, to take an out that is not a clear hit. And
I
so I
understand.
think, yeah, we should be more charitable to players, but really try to incentivize them to not do that.
That is absolutely fair. I mean, I personally have been put in situations where I genuinely think it is not, but when the video comes out, it shows otherwise. So sometimes it's a bit difficult. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, but in that situation, that moment, I do what I feel was correct in those instances. But I think sometimes we need to sort of like give people the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah,
where like we are only humans and sometimes we make mistake. But if certain humans make mistakes all the time, then I think it's quite questionable.
absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think there are definitely patterns, and there are some players where it's, yeah, the values are stacked up a little bit different. And I think it's important as a league, as a like a governing body or stuff like that, to really teach them those values, and as a coach who coaches a lot of young players, to really instill those values very early on, because otherwise it gets much harder to deprogram someone. And once you got the stigma of being a cheater, then sort of the incentives to not cheat are completely gone, because everyone's going to assume anyway. So why would you stop, basically? So if there's not a way to redemption, and not a community that is like, okay, we'll give you another chance, then it's just going to be even harder to enforce it for the future, I feel like. So another thing that I wanted to get into with you is basically coaching. So dodgeball coaching, coaching young players. So you've been a coach, as you said, for 11 years now. So what do you think is important in getting young players to join the game, and how do you develop young players?
I think first and foremost, young players will definitely join in if it's fun, right?
Yeah.
No one will want to pick up something if it's not fun. That is the most important thing. I think when I want to encourage more players, more students to join into these dodgeball programs, I think the most important thing is to make it as engaging and fun as possible, right?
Yeah.
From there on, then we will sort of like let them decide if they want to be competitive. I think because for me, uh, being a coach, right? I am a sports coach, right? At this moment, I am a dodgeball coach. My job is to, for primary level, which is elementary level, right? For most
Hmm.
parts of the world, I would want them to learn the motor skills that dodgeball has to offer because dodgeball has a very unique set of skills that you must have if you want to be good. Dodgeball is a easy game to pick up, but at a higher level, when you want to master it, it requires a lot of skills. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And dodgeball is also fun and easy to pick up. Why I say this is because if you play football from the age of 6 or 7 versus someone who is going to pick up football at the age of 21, for example, who do you think between these two has the advantage? Would you think it's the person A or the second one?
A.
Yeah, because you grew up playing that certain game, correct? So you would have all the knowledge and all the motor skills required. Now, person B might have a very difficult time, even at the age of 20, for example, to pass the ball straight,
Yeah.
to control the ball. But in dodgeball, picking it up is no problem. I personally started when I was 21 and over a year, no problem. Because why? I already had the motor skills. I played handball for 2 years back in elementary or in primary school, and I never played anything that was uh, hand related
Yeah.
because I only played football after that. Like at most, I would have done is track and field and football. That like all of these require a lot of running, a lot of jumping.
Mhm.
So so it's easier for people to pick it up, but for you to master it and be an elite, it requires a lot of different skill sets. So when I coach primary kids, right, the goal is to always make sure that if a specific student, for example, if he does not become a Malaysian player in 5, maybe 10 years time, it's not a problem. But he will be equipped with the motor skills that we have to offer.
Mhm.
So I would do a lot of fun games where it requires a lot of movement, a lot of building their fundamentals towards coordination, hand-eye coordination, leg coordination, and so on.
So what you say is like a lot of fundamentals and fun, basically, is the most
Yes,
important thing for the
fun and fundamentals. These are the
perfect.
two most important things.
The
Yes,
two
that is correct.
fun of dodgeballs.
Correct.
The two funs of dodgeball. Yeah, that sounds perfect. So give me maybe a few examples, like you said, hand-eye coordination, foot drills, agility, stuff like that. Like, what do you think is the most difficult part to develop as a dodgeball player to becoming a really elite player in the long term?
Oh, there's a lot of things that we can dive into. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
let's dive
personally,
into them.
okay. So personally, I think a student that comes into dodgeball, if at the university level, they will be around 18, 19, 20 year olds, right? That is fair to assume
Yeah.
because they'll be after high school. Okay. A lot of our students or students that come in from this level, a lot of them don't have the necessary sports background. Some of them might be good at badminton, right? For example, let's give an example. If I
Hmm.
have a student who was competitive in high, I have three students. They're all in competitive sports in high school. One comes from football, one comes from badminton, and one comes from give me a sport. Let's say swimming, right?
Yep.
Which of these three do you think would pick up dodgeball faster?
I think, to be honest, I think it's badminton because you
Yeah,
have all the core
because
fundamentals.
you have more fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
So like dodgeball is not difficult to pick up, but like I said, if you want to master it, it's a bit more difficult, right? So like the these badminton players, why are they good? Because they got very good footwork. Week in, week out, they train their coordination like mad, like just
Yeah.
forward running, backward running, forward running, sideways, and then just reaching with their rackets. This shows that they would have uh, very quick thinking, very quick decision making, and also that they have very good hand-eye coordination.
Hmm.
Whereas if you play, what other sports can we relate to this? Handball, right?
Yeah.
So handball, you were personally a handball player, right?
Yep.
So you would know, you would have very good coordination. Your endurance would be much better than of those who play volleyball, for example.
Hmm.
Volleyball players may have like good throws because they learn how to spike the ball well, and you can translate that movement into dodgeball. But handball does the same thing, and you work closer to a ball.
Yeah.
You work closer to throwing a ball. When you pass a ball, you would have to receive it, right? You pass, you receive, you move. So I mean, you don't necessarily move a lot in dodgeball, right? But it helps translate all these movements.
You and me both, we came to dodgeball at a later age, like around 20, and we had a lot
Yes.
of sports background. And back then, that was really all you needed. Basically, being an very versatile athlete who could translate his other sports into dodgeball and then learn how to throw really good. Because I think one thing that is really tough to develop if you've never done it is the throwing mechanics. So if you played handball or played volleyball or baseball or some sort of throwing or even racket sport
Yep.
like a badminton, then you sort of have those throwing mechanics and gonna develop a good throw in quite a fast time. But if you have
Yes.
nothing of those fundamentals, then
It
it's
takes a
really
longer time.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
It,
correct.
and it's never probably never gonna be a really S tier throw. So
That's correct.
if you didn't develop those at a younger age and get the mobility requirements and all of that stuff. But still you can learn how to throw a ball, and there are lots of players who started later, not coming from throwing sports, and really developed very
Very
adequate
well.
and
Yeah,
good throws.
adequate. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
because one of my players, Alex, is going to listen to this podcast, and I said once, you're not going to be able to develop a throw if you didn't do any throwing sports in your youth.
yep,
And he was like a little bit concerned about this because he came from a different sport, jiu-jitsu, and so he had
yep.
no background. And I said that's I wouldn't take it like black and white. So you can develop a throw, and it's just gonna take time, and it probably is never gonna be elite, but it's gonna develop, and his throw is way better now than back then.
I
But still,
think, I think, okay, for example, like you said, your friend was from jiu-jitsu, right?
yeah,
Okay, that is a martial art in a way, right?
yeah,
It's a, so like what I noticed with these martial arts is that um, coaches or masters in these sports, right, in martial arts, they teach their students, to have some level of grit.
hmm,
And I think that grit is what made him be able to throw as well as he does now.
yeah. That's definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
I
So
think also,
I think skills is one thing. Uh, Having the grit is another.
yeah,
Because when I started training with the national team back in 2016, we had a coach. His name is Coach Jason. He was our. He didn't know so much about dodgeball. He knows how it's played, but he's not our dodgeball coach. But he was our physical coach. Okay, one thing that he said to me, to us, stuck with me until today. Okay,
Yeah.
he said that one thing that we lacked is the obsession.
Yeah.
If you are not obsessed, you will not go far. And that has stuck with me ever since. Ever since then, I have been very obsessed in whatever I do. I want to get better in throwing. I'll be so obsessed with it. I watch videos, baseball videos, how to throw, because the mechanics are the same and you can translate them over, right? It's the same. So I watch videos, I practice. Uh, Now I can do multiple throws like curveball, underarms, backhands, or you name it.
Yeah.
Anything you see in foam that can be thrown, I can do it, right? Because like what he said with me stuck with me for a very, very long time. I think that is one thing to have is not just a coach who coaches you well in the sport that you do, but who also serves another purpose, like being a mentor in your life.
Mm.
So it's very important. So I think your friend might have had a really good coach for him to, be super obsessed with wanting to be better at dodgeball. Maybe it's just his character where he say, "Oh, Stefan said I can't throw. I'm going to prove him wrong." So like
Definitely.
it's very refreshing to see, because like these are the things that uh, hold so much value. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
100%.
I think teaching kids skill is something anyone can do, but teaching values, it requires certain individuals. And I think you played a big part in
Thank you.
Alex's how his development was.
Yeah, yeah, I think those are really important points. Like the obsession is the biggest part, and also like the ability to reflect on what you're doing, how your training is working, and learn, be a constant learner. So, and I think that's where the translation from every other sport that you did at a high level, where you really learned how to train, how to endure, and how to watch other players and adapt from that. And that is something that is universal to sports and other stuff like that as well. And if you've got that down and are really obsessed and consequent about stuff, then you pretty much can learn anything.
That is correct.
um, but going back from that, as I said, we started this whole journey a little bit later, and now I see those young players who started dodgeball playing maybe at 10 years. Maybe you even see them starting at 7 years old, or older players now that started at 16, who developed those dodgeball skills from the ground up. So we learned our motor skills in other sports and translated them, which gave
Yeah,
us also unique movement patterns and stuff that was a really advantage, but also stuff that we had to unlearn or learn different. And now people start with dodgeball and really come from it from a very young age, and that looks very different in my, at least in my opinion, where our young players are seeing all those players. And I think just last week we had a little game sparring session where we all tried to do the sideways hop from Jack from your team from Malaysia, where he
okay.
always like stays in the same position, body position, and just moves 2 meters sideways. And it
Yeah, yeah,
impressed one of our young players so much that he just constantly tries to copy that, and other moves as
yeah.
well from other players. So like they learn really high quality dodgeball movement and adopt it at a very early age, and it looks just way better than my movement, for example. So you've trained dodgeball players from a very young age now, and do you see like a revelation of the game where it looks different, like a dodgeball player who started with dodgeball and a dodgeball player who came from other sports, that you can recognize the difference, and what are those?
Okay. Very interesting point that you have brought up. Uh, Based on my personal experience, I think people who train in only one sport, for example, in this instant, we're talking about dodgeball, right? Like if
Yeah.
they only play dodgeball, they will only know moves from dodgeball moves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They will only know patterns that are shown by dodgeball players. But I grew up playing football. which had a lot of like sprinting and short bursts and running. So that, in a way, translates to how I play my game. So I love playing very fast, very explosive kind of games. So, and that is because that all of these movements were from football. I'm not the kind to sit down and try to block a ball because, in all honesty, I'm horrible at blocking. But I play to my best strengths, and I think the best players in the community, or maybe even around the world, they all have played or are playing another sport. That is my take on this.
Yeah. But don't you think that is also part because dodgeball is such a young sport? So the people who are in their prime now just didn't have that development in the early years. Where I think, like, we see it, for example, with the French players who really started 10 years ago now, maybe, and who started as little kids. And now they're 20 something years old and they started really playing dodgeball. And you can really see it where they obviously their movement is different, but they are just better dodgeballers. And even though we can like bring our experience from other sports and are more specialists, maybe they're much more all-round dodgeballers. And so I think there is still, for now, it's still good enough for me as well, like to be a specialist in some areas and be really good at those. But I think there will become a point where you have to be a dodgeballer who trained for 10 years to come to the highest level, and that those specialists who came from other sports will be the rare.
Rare species, rare
Yeah,
breed. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Uh, I think it's I think I'm very fortunate to be in this unique situation because I didn't start playing dodgeball at a very young age, so I was able to translate more motor movements from other sports, right? So,
yeah.
in a way, that gives me what I think is an advantage over a lot of other players that are playing right now.
Yeah, but are those other player who only played dodgeball, and did they have like the same athlete development time as you? Because you played other sports for 15 years and then you picked up dodgeball and played dodgeball for 10 years with other
Yeah,
sports. So you have 25 years of athlete development. And if you
yeah.
play someone who's played dodgeball for 25 years, then that's probably going to be a different picture. And I don't think those people exist as of yet.
Yeah, as of now, there's none like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if we have this conversation 10 years from now,
Yeah.
then it will be possible. But I think, as you said, we're still at a very young age, right? Like a lot of us consider dodgeball as an infant stage.
Yeah,
We are in its
definitely.
infant stage, so there's no telling what the future will look like, and how much of a difference it's going to be if someone played dodgeball for 20 years versus someone who's played multiple sports plus dodgeball for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But I'm of the strong conviction that dodgeball in 10 years is gonna look way faster, way more explosive, and just way better all around. Because we've seen now, like at world stage, where you get players from very many different backgrounds, sporting backgrounds, ball type backgrounds, where you see
Yep.
there are a lot of specialists, and you see those
Yep.
foam guys who can curve a ball in any direction. You can see the movement of those foam players who can block and dodge multiple foam balls and make their body just as tiny as a foam ball. You see maybe different cloth players who are really fast in their runs, who have really strong and lethal throws, and have just more of a, maybe that's just my opinion, a different tactic perspective of the game, and a little bit more a different team dynamic in the game. And then you combine those and you see foam players who come to cloth dodgeball and bring those insane catching skills and
Yep.
transfer them into a cloth ball setting. And you maybe see cloth players going into foam now more as well in Europe, where you see different strategies that transfer over or different stuff like that. And I think so the meta of dodgeball is going to change so much over the next few years just by combining all of that stuff that is currently played around the world. And then you're going to put in 10 more years where you get players who have learned all of that stuff from a very young age on and play dodgeball for 15 years and are 25 now. And they're going to be, at least in my mind, they're going to be way better and way more rounded. And dodgeball is going to play completely different. At least that's what I feel like. And so, first of all, do you agree with that? And second of all, you said like, obviously from different sports you get different stuff that you learn in the past, but as a dodgeball coach, how do you try to implement that into the training of younger players? So obviously you said hand-eye coordination is really important, but like those agility movements, those speeds, those laterals, those jumping skills, all of that, how do you incorporate those in your development of youth players? And those are very two questions. Maybe start with one and take it from there.
Okay. After everything we spoke about, yeah, I definitely agree. Right? If you had a specific sport that you play, you can always obviously transfer all those skills over, and that will give you an edge. So basically, when it comes to developing the younger players, what we try to do is we don't force it down the throats to be a dodgeball player, even if they start at a very young age.
Hmm.
So I mentioned before, like I think the most important thing for us is that a child is able to develop these motor skills, and down the road it will be up to them to decide if they want to be a dodgeball player.
Hmm.
Yeah. So our goal, like me as a coach, like is very important to have very strong fundamentals in terms of like throwing mechanics, coordination mechanics. So what we do is every time we have a class, in our warm-up sessions before we start games, like we incorporate a lot of the movements that we will use in sports in general. So it's a lot of sideways, lateral movements, something as simple as running forward and then being able to backpedal without falling over. You
Hmm.
know, yeah, we teach this in our lessons, right?
Yeah.
This very important because at some point, if this said player does not become a dodgeball player, then they would have the adequate skills required to be able to play other sports. For example, if you play badminton, you're not going to have time to look behind and see how far you are and how much time, how much distance you have to cover, how much space you have to run backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So we want to always be able to sort of like teach them skills that they can use for dodgeball, as well as use them to be able to translate them to other sports.
Yeah.
So that's within our uh, what we call it, our coaching syllabus. So it's, I don't know, every sport, in my opinion, at the highest level is just a showcase of your basics, your fundamentals, right? How good you are as an individual player comes down to how strong your basic skills are,
Yeah.
right? Because dodgeball is a very unique game. Like I said, it's not one ball, it's multiple balls. And if you really think about it, is dodgeball a team game? Yes. But to what extent? Because when you have six balls and you're going to have to throw together, it's up to that individual to be able to to showcase whether or not they can make that shot when it matters. So it's a combination of a team sport, but the truth is it's more of you must have six strong individuals playing on a team.
Yeah.
It's not so super flexible. Like when I say flexible, let's talk about football, right?
Hmm.
Like we're not talking professional. Let's just say social or maybe slightly competitive level, where if a tall guy is able to pass the ball and is able to hit the ball away, he can make a decent defender.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that he's good at shooting. Or if you put him in the situation where he has to take a penalty under pressure, he might not be able to convert. But in dodgeball, it's not so flexible, because if you are left one versus one or one versus two, and if that is your weakest player, then it shows how good of a team you are.
Mm.
A strong team is only as good as their weakest player. That is something that I always
Um,
tell myself.
okay, because I would slightly disagree with that, because especially for foam, but also for cloth, I think like dodgeball, as you said, like football or other sports, like American football would be an extreme example, is a sports where you have a team, but with a
Yep.
lot of specialized people, where everyone has a
Okay.
very specific role and they have to try to work together to achieve a goal. And in dodgeball, the you also have specialized people, where
Yep.
like a wing player is often, at least at this point, a little bit has maybe different skills than a middle player, and
Of course.
someone who is better at dodging, someone who is better at throwing, someone who is better at catching and stuff like that. But as you said, everyone has at some point has to fill out every role, because even a
Correct.
middle player can become a wing player and he can become the last player in. But still, everyone can use his tools to achieve the objective, because whether you hit someone or dodge someone multiple times or catch someone, you can still achieve the goal. So you have special skills that you can bring to the team. But
Yep.
like in foam, for example, if you have 6 players and you have 5 top players and 1 weak link, it doesn't matter as much as in other sports, because the thing is, okay, he gets hit out first, or he if he gets left over, he's not going to win the set for you. But it doesn't matter, because one really good player can have such an impact. And I think in foam that is even more so the case. So if you have one absolute elite player and put him into a rec team of people who can do nothing, then
Yep.
this one player will kill everyone. And like on a football pitch, that's not going to happen. Like even if you put a pro player in there into an amateur league, he can't do anything. He can do a lot of things, but he can't win the game on his own. And in an American football game, even less. If you're a great running back and you don't get a ball from any quarterback or stuff like
That
that, I
is
have no
true. That
idea.
is true.
And in
I
dodgeball, you can play a individual game, but I think that is like, if you're the best player, you can do a lot of damage. But I think when you have 6 really elite players, that's where the teamwork comes in. Or if you have 12 players who are sort of equals, then is where team play makes the difference. And I think we're at the stage where both can work. We're at the stage where even the best teams, let's say, for example, in foam, it's US versus Malaysia at the world level. You have 12 elite players and everyone can pretty much do everything. But a few steps below that, you have players on teams like, for example, I have no idea, let's say, um, maybe let's just take Austria. So a team that is very recent to foam, and you have players who are really good at throwing the ball and can curve a few balls, and you have players who can dodge really well, and you can have a few players who can even catch that ball, but you don't have that throughout the whole team. And then you play another team at the same level, and they also have a variety of players. Then team play is really important. But against Malaysia, team play brings you nothing, because you cannot hit players out if you can't throw the ball hard and curve it, and they're gonna pick you apart. Even if you bring them down to one player, and you're not gonna win that set.
That's
If
fair.
you understand what I mean. So I think
That
at the highest level, it's important to have both, but there is still like for example in cloth, I would say we as Austria beat some teams in the past where their individual players were better than ours, but
I
we beat
understand.
them because our team play or our team tactics were better at that point in time. And
Yes,
so
it's a combination of both.
yeah. And so I think in cloth you rely more, even more on the tactical side, whereas in foam you rely more on the individual skill. So if you are an elite player in foam and you can just dodge and block those balls and you can throw like crazy, you're gonna be able to win a 1v6 against
Yes.
players who are not at
Yes.
that level. In cloth,
Yes.
that is possible at some level, at some discrepancy between those teams. It's definitely possible. But if 3 or 4 players team up on you, you're still gonna most
Get
often
hit up.
lose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And so Yeah, I think like, and that's why I think like the individual skill in foam is higher at this point than it is in cloth. And I personally think the tactical structure is higher in cloth than it is in foam. But I get foam too little to really have an in depth appreciation for that. So that might be just my bias.
I think both points are absolutely fair. There have been games where, um, games are won by an individual. There are games where they are won by team plays. So, but I think dodgeball has that flexibility where both can happen.
Yeah. But I think it's gonna be less and less in the future where like the individual skill of teams at the highest level is gonna be even more equal because you will have just so many good dodgeball players that there is probably at some point there's going to be a limit on how fast you can throw a ball, how much you can curve it, how good you can dodge. And then
Yeah,
I think is where we're going to see the development of team play and team tactics because that's going to give you the edge.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So on that side, so what as a coach, obviously you said all those fundamentals, all those agility, hand-eye coordination, throwing mechanics, everything of that. What is like your tactical view on dodgeball, especially on foam, obviously? Like what do you try to teach to your players, and what are the most important things that you see top level teams do that maybe recreational or amateur teams are not being aware of?
Mm, I'm going to be completely honest with you. My bias or personal perspective on this, I think even at the highest level, games are a lot of games are won by strong individuals, right?
Mhm.
Let's just put it to perspective, right? Okay. Um, how much strategy or tactics would you need if everyone can throw a ball and can hit whenever they please?
None.
None, right? Right. So it kind of begs the question, like how strong is my team and how much do we need to strategize for a game? Because I've been on a team that has very strong individuals. I'm talking about club level. I'm talking about national team level, and I've also been on teams where the individual skills are not as great as the others, right?
Mhm.
So because of that, like I would have to rely a bit more on how we can play as a team, and still we still get our asses handed by teams who have really strong individuals. So if you ask me, if you have strong individuals, you don't have to worry so much about the strategy part. The strategy part would come off as how would I say? It just makes the game looks nicer. Like
Yeah.
you finish off the game easily. You finish off the game easier, and it makes it easier for everyone. Because
Yeah.
if everyone can land their shots, right? Because at the end of the day, when you throw and you land your shots, there's not much strategy that will be involved.
Yeah, but the thing is like that is like I'm coming to this from a cloth perspective, and obviously like level one is like you throw and you hit, and you
Yep.
basically you aim for something, and a good thrower is, in my opinion, made of a few things. Like one is his throwing speed, second
Yep.
is his accuracy, and third is his decision making. Like where does he throw on which opponent? So like
Okay.
that makes his throwing skill. And there are certain other things like how can you do that all under pressure, under time pressure, make the right decision when someone fakes at you, can you do it the same, and stuff like that. So there are lots of minute details that go into it, but on a basic overview I would say those three things are really important. But then you have players against you, and level two is you have an opponent who knows that there is someone with a good throw who is very accurate and who makes good decisions. So my dodging is gonna adapt to that, and I'm gonna make even better decisions and make him miss still. So and then he's gonna have to go into level three and maybe like predict where I'm gonna move, make me move in certain ways that his hitting percentage goes up again. but that's
Yes.
on an individual basis, and that's a 1v1. But that's where I think the team aspect, especially in glove, is so important, because with a glove ball, it's much harder to just hit out a good dodger or good catcher. So that
Right.
is where you need tactics, where you need to work as a team to make individuals dodge in a way that you can hit them and not be caught. And
Right.
so it's much more important how you sync up as a team. And that's where a very well synced up team is much better than an individual, because with three players, you're still going to get a good player out. And so in foam, I haven't seen that kind of thing up to that level yet. And obviously in Austria, not at all. But even like at the World Championships in the final, I know that there is much more tactic involved. But to me, as someone who doesn't know the game in depth, it still feels like everyone is really good at landing their ball, and you have certain different methods of doing that, and everyone is good at dodging and blocking. So it's sort of, and you match those two up against each other, and then whoever is better at it is going to win, said
Uh,
in a very basic, simplistic way. But what kind of tactical things do you have to get into at that level when you play Malaysia against the US, for example, where everyone can land their balls? How do you improve the game as a team, or what are your like thought process behind that?
okay. So for me personally, like when I play those games, right? Because I've been fortunate enough to play in all these finals against very, very strong and, very big name players. Okay. I think the most important thing for a team is that the team makes little to no mistakes. Mistakes will happen
Mm-hmm.
at every point of the game. I think at the highest level, at a very crucial game, in a very crucial game, the team that makes more mistakes will lose.
Mm-hmm.
So because the skill level is already there, like we know Americans throw really well, they catch really well. Maybe we don't throw and catch as well as they do. So yes, strategy will come into place.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about us being consistent. The consistent part of how our team operates will decide whether or not we'll be victorious.
Mm-hmm.
That is from my end. And if we make less mistake than the opponent, then uh, there's a higher chance of us being able to pull off the win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you ask me, at the end of the day, there will still be certain individuals that will show up to these games and they will just feel like, okay, today's my day, everything they shoot will land. And sometimes you just can't stop players like that.
Yeah.
When they are on a roll, there's not much you can do about it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a person that believes that if I play a game, the only thing I can control is what I do. I cannot control what the opponent is going to do. All I can do is be prepared for it. So I think the important thing here is to have that mindset of, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to play the way that we train to play and how we set out to play, and we do it to the best of our abilities. We have a good game, and the results will show itself.
Mm.
That is my perspective.
Okay, yeah, yeah, it's a fair perspective, but I want to like pick on a few things there. Like the first thing you said, I love that, because that's exactly how I look at it as well. It's like reducing your mistakes is the most
Of course.
important thing. Like, and I think that is where we are, dodgeball strategy wise currently, probably at that level where we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we know which, we like try to put them in three separate um columns, where we like, there are stupid decisions, there are risky decisions, and there are safe decisions.
Yeah.
And so you really try to avoid the stupid decisions, because against good teams and against good players, they're gonna cost you. And
Of
you
course.
try to manage risky decisions and try to adapt them to the situation, where sometimes you have to be more risky, sometimes you have to be less risky, and same with the opponents. And then you try to really execute on those good decisions, and take advantage of those. And that's like the basic overview of the way how I view dodgeball strategies at the moment. But I think there are lots of levels past that, where you go into minute details, where like there is, if you watch a dodgeball game and you pick out one situation and you can talk about it for an hour, because there is seldom one clear decision. So you have often infinite paths of what you how you can like achieve your objectives, and then you can decide which one has the higher percentage. At the end of the days, if you make the hit, obviously, then that was good. But as you said, if you can be continuously successful over a long period of time, and that is dodgeball. So it's not about making one hit, it's making outs consistently throughout the game. And I think that is where tactics really come into play, where you give yourself the best odds of achieving that. And as you said, if there is one player that takes off and kills anyone, then tactics fly out of the window, and that's in any sport, and that's also a part of sport that we love. You have the perfect technique, but the perfect tactic, but in the 91st minute, Messi gets the ball and just dribbles through and shoots a goal, and you lose still. So that's going to happen in any sport, and that's part what we love. But as a team sport, you need to be as aware of those tactical details. And
Yes.
don't know if you want to jump in on that, but the other thing you said was like you can only control what you yourself are doing and bringing to the court, and I think that is always a very important thing as a sports person, as an athlete, to know where your limits are and really focus on what is your in your capabilities. But for me personally, like the most important thing that I try to do is try to influence my opponents, and so I'm trying obviously to do my best and try to work to the best of my abilities. But most of that in dodgeball goes into um, making my opponents less certain about anything and trying to disrupt their tactical approach to the game or their mental approach to the game and everything. So I'm really trying to influence my teammates and making them better, and trying to influence my opponents and making them worse. So obviously that's still playing to my best of abilities, but I think it's very important, especially in dodgeball where you have such a clear impact with a ball, without a ball, that you try to um, put as much impact on the game as possible. And that's where I think you what makes you a good player or a great player, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, yes, definitely. Um, like I think when I play on a team, right? Like I always try to emphasize to my team that it's more important that we take control of what we can in terms of how we view the game, how we approach the game. For example, we can always go up against a team that has better individuals. For example,
Mm.
right? Like in Austria last year, we were going to play the finals, and we know the Americans have very good players, right? Individual players. I'm
Yeah.
talking about individual. Like if we pit them 1-1, like their squad against ours, I think on paper they are better,
Hmm.
right? But then again, like you need to know your value, right? You got to the final because you were great as what? As individuals, as team, doesn't matter because you got that at the end of the day. So you have to play to that strength. If your strength, for example, was because you had strong individuals and your tactics believed in like feeding these strong individuals and got you the results, then you just continue playing the same way that you did. There's no reason to change, just because you are playing against a better team. There's a difference between changing the way you approach games and being adaptable. I think,
Definitely.
yeah, I think some people sometimes they adjust too much and they sort of like lose track of like what they are good at, and
Mhm.
those things can sort of kill your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like in training or coaching other players, what are like important things you need to see in a player or in a team that you think they might have a chance to be successful? What are like certain attributes that you want to see in players, and what do you want to see team wise and strategically to be confident in your team?
Okay. When I coach, I'm a total different person when it comes to playing and when I coach kids. Yeah, I'm two different people, right? Like, because I personally, when I play, I'm a bit more of a risk taker rather than a safe player. I
Hmm.
can do safe playing, but let's just say it's not my preferred choice of playing.
Yeah,
I,
fair.
I like the games to be exciting for the viewers. I feel that is my strength, so I will just play to my strength. But
Hmm.
sometimes when the team requires me to play safe, of course I will play safe. But now, if I'm working with a younger set of individuals, right, like kids, for example, I will always tell them to have that self belief and always focus on what they can do instead of what they are going up against. And I think for most part, uh, if you sell to other individuals, you sell it, meaning like you instill enough belief and they will ride on that belief that you
Yeah.
have in them. I think that is very, very important.
Mm.
Uh, Strategy wise, you don't have to deviate so much from what you have been practicing. Because when I work with kids, I strongly believe that you should just play to what you have been practicing
Mhm.
more than when it comes to adults. Because when you play against adults, sometimes like you do something flashy and it pays off, right?
Yeah.
But for kids, you want to teach them the importance of basics first, because I feel when you work with kids and younger age, you want to teach them the importance of the strength of fundamentals
Hmm.
over doing flashy strategies.
Yeah.
Because at a younger level, age group, age division, where it's like under 12 or under 15, I think strong basic skills are enough to win you games. But when you go to the world championship level, for example, obviously strong basic skills is going to be in every team that you play against.
Yeah.
So what would be the difference? The difference would be in how you prepare, in terms of strategy, in terms of like how you approach the game. I think that is my philosophy, at least at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely agree with that. I think one thing, obviously, like I can, I love to talk dodgeball for days, and I think
Oh,
we
of course,
will
me too.
find a lot of topics that we can go into depth with. But I think at some point our listeners gonna think this is gonna be too long, and I have to split it up, and that is work, and I don't want to do that. So we're
Understand.
gonna have to cut it a little bit short at that. I think there were lots of really important points. So I would like maybe summarize the whole thing where you go like for you personally. I just try to summarize it and you tell me if I've missed anything or if you want to add anything to that. So
Yep.
basically what you say as a coach, especially for young children, it's really important to on the one side incorporate fun because you don't know what they want to do later on, but fun is always the most important thing to get them into participating at something physical. And
Yep.
then the fundamentals like agility, um, body mechanics, throwing mechanics, hand-eye coordination, and then tactic wise really sticking to the basics and limiting those errors for the first part, and that will get you really far. And if you want to become a successful dodgeball player, it's really important for yourself to maybe find someone to mentor you and be really obsessive about everything and learn from the players around you and also everything you can find now online on video and stuff like that, and that will enhance your play, and that will basically pave, at least at this point, if you're a little bit talented and obsessed, you can really reach high levels in this sport. Is there
Yes.
anything really important that you want to add to that?
I think it's also important. So when I started playing dodgeball, there was this player that I was really I there was this player that I really looked up to, right? So his name is Robert CK. I'm
Hmm.
sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
He's been a dodgeball team Malaysia member since 2013. Okay,
Yeah.
and I don't know his history beyond that. Maybe he's played before like 2013, and ever since I started dodgeball, like when I watch this guy. I've always been a big fan of the way he plays dodgeball. He's a lot of flair, very exciting to watch player, and I feel that at some point I really wanted to be him.
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, and I was fortunate enough to learn from him as well, and also be teammates with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so I what I'm saying here is, um, if you are a young player and you want to go far in the sport, I think it's important to sort of like learn from one individual, maybe not directly by advice, but maybe you can watch their videos, see how they play, why they make those plays, how they do it, when they do it. These are all very important things.
Hmm.
When I watch dodgeball videos, I don't watch what is cool. I watch what works. I watch why this person made such decision. Why did this decision not pay off? Why was this play good? What made them decide that this was the play to make? So
Hmm.
this is an insight that I always tell people. Like if you want to be good, you have to watch a lot of videos.
Absolutely.
Watching videos, not just watch yourself and score over like how well you played. That is one thing, right? But it's more important to learn like, okay, from this play, what could I have done better? What could I have done in that situation that would have given me the upper hand, that would have given me the win instead
Mm.
of a draw or a loss. Like if the game was 5-5, the and it's the last set of the game. Like if I approached it this way, could I have won it? And then you revisit those mistakes. You bring those mistakes to training and see like, okay, could I have done it in this manner? Could I have done it in this way? Would it have worked? I think being able to do your research is a very important part. And I also think that looking up to someone and trying to imitate how they play is not only a form of flattery, but is also a learning curve,
Yeah.
especially for newer players.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think, yeah, video, we have so many resources now, and really
Yep,
trying to understand elite players, not just how they do stuff, but why they do stuff is so
yep,
important. And not uh, thinking just about the highlights, because highlights are mostly because someone took a risk and it paid off, or someone made a stupid mistake and someone
yep, that is
else.
correct.
And so it's more the consistent gameplay that will get you farther. Highlights are important, and in this day of age and social media, they
Yep,
definitely make an impact and are good for the sport, and especially for spectators. We need those highlights and those players who can pull them off. But to become a successful dodgeball player, you need to be really good at your fundamentals and just make the right decisions and execute at a high level. And that
at the
will,
right time. Yes, that
yeah,
is correct.
absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Think so. Watch Carlos in his games and his decision making when he makes flashy stuff and runs at people, and try to imitate it. That's what I got from that. So, last point, and I wanted to do it at the start, but just a little bit, as I said, ADC was just a few weeks ago. And in Europe, at least, we saw a few videos and some some YouTube live streams. But to be honest, they were quite tough to follow without commentary and without any graphics to know who's playing whom,
Yep.
what's the score and stuff like that. So it wasn't really easy to watch too much of that. But like, what's your, give me a little bit of an overview. How was the tournament and everything beyond that?
Okay. So the Asian Dodgeball Championships, ADC. So this was the second edition. The first one was in Singapore 2 years ago.
Hmm.
As we all know now that we will have one regional tournament every other year, and World
Yeah.
Championships will follow every other year. So this was the second one, and we were fortunate to host it in Malaysia. Uh, is literally 3 minutes away from where I live, so you cannot get. I didn't have to spend much money traveling halfway around the world for this. Okay, so for the four men's, we had 11 teams. For the sorry, let me just get you the right info.
Yeah.
For the men's, four men's, we had 11 teams. We had the regular Malaysia, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, Brunei, Saudi Arabia, India, Nepal, China,
Mm-hmm.
and the newcomers for this year would be Japan, four men's, uh, Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
Nepal, and China. And for the four women's, we had 7 teams: Malaysia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Australia, Singapore, Japan, India. The newcomers were, let's see, I'd say only Japan for foam women's. And for the foam mix, we had 7 teams: Malaysia, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, India, China. So China was the only newcomer in the foam mix. So it was a 4-day event. The first 3 days were all the round robin, so we had to play 10 games in the space of 2.5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the third day was the half day. So after that, we followed with the semi-finals. And if your team made it to the finals, you would play on the fourth day. If you lost your semi-finals, you would play on the third day towards the evening and night. So I think it was a very good tournament, I would say. You can see that when you break down these tournaments into regionals, right? Like it's as competitive,
Yeah.
right? And it gives like newer countries an opportunity to have a taste of what international dodgeball is like, rather than just to commit to the whole world championship experience when you're not prepared. So I think this gives like Japan, for example, who's new in foam match, right? Like they now have a taste of what international dodgeball is like, and they might just show up at the world championships next year. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's good that WDBF has made it in this way. I feel it will only grow from here, you know. So if like a team who is new, for example, and they feel like maybe the world championship is too much, but they want to just experience international dodgeball, I think this is a very good opportunity. We finished first place in the round robins, playing 10 games and winning all 10. Then we won our semifinals, and unfortunately we fell short in the finals. Yeah,
And you lost
that's
to Hong Kong or against?
Yeah, we lost to Hong Kong. Yeah, we
Mhm.
lost to Hong Kong. I think for most part of that game, we were on the back foot. We started the game 0-3. We came back 3-3, and then they went up 4-3, 5-3, and then the final score was like they got the 6 point, which was with how much time left, like we couldn't afford to lose that point, and we did. So uh, we lost it in that last few minutes, I would say. The Because we beat them in the round robin,
Mhm.
so I feel like that gave them a lot of time to reflect on how they can face us if they ever did again.
Yeah.
And I think have to give credit to them. They're an incredible team, and I've said this before, in Asia, like especially like in the Asia region. I think Malaysia, everyone knows, right? When it comes
Yeah.
to four men's dodgeball, I think Hong Kong is not far behind, and it'll be just a matter of time before they will win us, and they will start to win us regularly. But I will do whatever I can. Me and my boys, we will do our best to make sure that we remain as the powerhouse for four men's in Asia.
For sure. Okay. And how was that whole tournament like compared to a Worlds or to an API? What do you have to take away from that tournament?
I think playing for your country at international level is different, because I've played in API as well
Mhm.
previously, but I've missed the last two editions. of the API because I couldn't commit due to work and so on. But
Yeah.
I feel being able to participate in all these tournaments, whether it's the World Championships, whether it's the Asian Championships, or whether it's just I think it's all different. Obviously, the stakes are a bit more higher when it comes to the World Championships. You play for your country. The training is a bit more difficult. It's a bit more intense. It's more demanding. Whereas API, there are teams that will go there and be like, okay, we want to have a good time. We would like to experience what playing international dodgeball is like, but it's a bit more less stressful, I would say,
Hmm.
less intense. I mean, there will always be intense games, but in terms of like how much demand there is in a game, I think API is a bit more chill.
Mm.
Like I said again, like there will always be good teams there. There will always be strong players that will go there and play. But playing for your country is just uh, another level, a different sort of pressure, and it's an honor when you wear the badge. For your
Mm.
country, it's different. I feel having all these opportunities now, right? It only has uh, good outcomes, meaning like there will be more teams. Because I heard that there were Japanese players for the first time going to API, and there was also their first time playing in the ADC. I think it will give them good exposure. I feel like if they have a good program set up back in Japan, they can also be uh, good at dodgeball because we all know like the Japanese people are very they have this everyone has this look on them where like we know that these people are very hardworking, they're very humble.
Yeah.
And let's talk about like the Japan cloth team, right?
Yeah.
They won the men's category in their first ever appearance, which is no one expected it, but they played a very good final. Like the last I watched a cloth game that I felt like, wow, this game is really good, was when I watched you play in Austria last year.
Yeah.
Because I've always lived in my bubble where like I'm a foam player, and it's not that I don't care about cloth. It's not my cup of tea, but it
Yeah.
was nice to watch because like you guys played US in the final, yes, and
Yeah.
like that game was crazy to watch. Like the atmosphere was different, the intensity was different. It's not something that I was used to back in the last ADC. I
Hmm.
mean, my cloth men's team won, yes, but in terms of like how intense it was and what the atmosphere was like, playing, watching you play last year was a different experience, and I think Japan also provided that sort of experience because of like the what's the word, camaraderie between like the players and how they all fought for the same objective. It was very nice to see, and them winning it on their first appearance, it will just lead to many more other possibilities.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so you might have a team that you might need to look out for
Yeah,
at the
definitely.
next Worlds. Yeah, and because they are made out, from what I know, they're all older-ish guys, which makes them more steady, more experienced. So they're not going to be any pushovers when you play against them. I think you would have to uh, take them with full respect and be like, okay, we're going to go and play our best. They
Yeah, for
are a
sure.
team. They are a team to look out for, which is definitely you know going to be the case.
Yeah, that's really cool to see
Yeah.
because we saw a few Japanese teams coming also to Vienna Calling, which is a cloth tournament, and UDO, which is also a cloth tournament in Europe. And
Okay.
they brought some cloth teams there as well, and it was really cool to see their
Yeah.
level of cloth dodgeball.
Yep, yep. But like
Awesome.
I said, like we both agree that at the moment dodgeball is it's in its infant stage. So, like, if there was a blueprint set for each country to run dodgeball in a certain way, I think it would then be more competitive.
Definitely.
Like right now, I feel like, for example, like for men's for Malaysia, right? The reason why we are so dominant at international level is because we have good programs here that has been, what's the word, that has been long standing. Means
Mm.
like over the past 10 years, we have always had NDC, we've always had youth development programs, and so on. But what if the rest of the world had this sort of initiative, this sort of like plans, would that make the dodgeball at international level closer? We'll never know,
Yeah.
so that's why it's up to each country to sort of like push and see how far they can go. I think it's very exciting to see, uh, now that I've played for like about 10 years. I'm super excited to see where we will end up in the
Yeah.
next 5 years. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna go right into a few listeners' questions because they fit quite well here. And so Xuxin, maybe you know him, asks you, are you still at your prime? So you said 30, I think you're 32, right? Or
32,
33?
correct.
32. So, and you said it will be interesting to see dodgeball in the next 5 years. So do you
Yeah.
think you're gonna be, what kind of part will you take in those next 5 years? And are you still at your prime?
uh, I think it's a very good question. I personally surprise myself every year because whenever I tell myself, okay, like I don't think I can do any better than I did the last year, I surprise myself and I still am able to match up with, especially with a lot of more potential youngsters coming in.
Hmm.
The fact that I can still keep up with them, play at a high level, still play at international level. I think, will I ever be in my prime? I will never know because I'm the kind of person that will, if I really want something, I will work really hard for it, and that has been the case over the 10 years, and I don't think I will want to stop anytime soon. Uh, yeah, my those who are close to me will know that my idol is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Hmm.
Uh, he's at the age of what, 40. He's
40,
still
41.
doing 41. Yeah, he's still doing really well. Still playing at competitive leagues. Still playing for his country, winning trophies. I would want to be someone like that. I would want to be someone who, at the age of, I don't know, maybe 35, 37, 5 years from now, I would still want to be competitive. I would still want to be good. Whether or not I will still be in my prime, only time will tell.
Fair. Yep,
Yeah,
that's a good answer.
yeah.
So another one, Beldiot asks, what are the things you do to get into your opponent's heads? And you cannot deny that you do this.
That I cannot deny. Oh, um, okay. So I grew up playing football, and I like to kind of like speak words into my opponent as a way to throw them off the game. Sometimes I still do it, uh, not as aggressive now,
Yeah.
but I do it a bit more, how to say, a little more discreet, but I'm a bit sharper with what I say, and it can really throw people off.
Okay.
So no deny, no deny. Uh, I love to get into my opponent's heads. What are the other than saying stuff, right? Like, I would like to think myself as a well-mannered person when it comes to dealing with people.
Yeah.
When I play against my opponents, I'm very respectful. I play my best. I never take my foot off the gas when I play against anyone. Whenever you step onto the court and you are facing me, I will always go 110%. That is my respect being shown. When it comes to getting into my opponent's heads, when I would say like the psychological factor of the game would be like when you when you score a point, when you win a point, when you win a set. I think the how you celebrate is important, not just to get into your opponent's heads, but also how you can rally your team and be like,
Mhm.
hey, let's go. We got this. Let's go next set. but at the same time, you're kind of like throwing your opponent off. So I can't really tell you how you should be doing it, but I can tell you. But this along those lines is where I play.
Okay, fair. I hope that helps. Andrew is asking how to enhance game sense with limited opportunity to play in big open competitions.
Okay, first of all, I think sometimes you need to understand is not what you have that makes you a good player, is what you do with what you have. So in this case, like if you don't have access to open tournaments, it'd be a completely different story if you have zero access to like open tournaments or leagues. But if you have an opportunity to play in a league, it's what you do with that opportunity matters. How you prepare yourself, what you do off the court, translates to how you play on the court. So like for me, for example, on season, I'm at the gym 3 to 4 days a week, on top of 2 to 3 dodgeball training sessions in a week.
Mm,
I try to leave my Saturdays and Sundays free. Uh, I work strictly 5 days a week. Workout plus training. I try to do all those things 5 days a week. Like I also mentioned, if you want to be better at the game, I think reading your opponent is one of the ways. You can do it by watching videos. You can also watch how you play and how you can better yourself. So it's not so much about what sort of tools you have available. It's more about like what you can do with those tools that you have available. Does
mm.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yep,
That would be my answer.
that's a good answer. So Mellow Wello asked, are you concerned about the rising level of foam in Europe?
Oh, um, this is a good question as well. I feel that I think it'll be a matter of time, right? We started like we started Malaysian dodgeball. Malaysian dodgeball started back in 2009, and if you actually count up to 2025, that's a lot of years.
Mm,
And it's not the case for most people, for most countries. I think over time, teams will get better, but whether or not I will be concerned, I think my answer would be no, because we Malaysians will continue to do what we do best, which is to play foam dodgeball. We are guided by fantastic, brilliant individuals that dedicate their time to bettering the not only the community, but also how we can increase or the quality of competitiveness here. So we will have much better players in the future. We will have
mm.
good quality players. We'll have good quality coaches. We have good quality everything. So if I'm asked whether I'll be concerned, maybe only when I see it. But
Fair.
as of now, I think we are. I wouldn't say comfortable. I would say that we are in a good position to be the leading country among the leading countries in terms of foam dodgeball.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right. That's a good
Uh,
answer.
I'll I'll be looking
Yeah.
forward to playing some European teams. Like I hope they get better. If they want some tips, on how they can improve their team's quality, you can always reach out to me. No problem. I have no problem sharing, because I don't believe whatever I share is going to bite me in the butt. At the end of the day, it requires a lot of effort, which is the effort that we have been putting in for the past, I don't know, a lot of years. So
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to
Yeah, there are
come
no
forward and ask
secrets that
questions. Yeah,
easily
there are no
make
s-
you.
yeah, it's not rocket science to what we do. Like we post out almost everything that we do,
Mm,
and the things. So like if you want a bit more in-depth detail, I'm okay to share. But it's the same thing as I tell my players. Like, I can tell you how we are going to play, but doesn't mean you can stop us. Yeah, yeah. So it is just the mindset that I have. But I'll be happy to see if there are more countries that are on the rise. Like, I would give it out to Hong Kong. I've always said this before. They are very hardworking bunch of individuals led by some individuals that have very strong belief that over time, if they continue working hard, they will be better. And this year we lost to them, and who knows what will happen in the future. So I respect that, and I'm a competitive person. If they do well, I will give credit where it's due, and I look forward to playing them the next time, because I don't like losing to the same team twice.
That is fair. All right. I think that's a good point to bring it to an end. One last question from me. Have you ever played cloth, or will you ever be dabbling in that ball type?
uh, I have had thoughts of wanting to be, in general, a good dodgeball player, which means diving into other ball types.
Hmm.
I definitely had this thought before. I have played cloth here maybe 3 times, maybe only 3 times. If
Okay.
I recall correctly, it was only 3 times. Uh, I would say that I think I'm not bad at it. If I picked it up, I could be a good player, because generally the way I play, I think, can be translated to cloth
Yeah, I think so as well.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, I can actually throw a cloth ball, not the best, but it's a good start.
Yeah.
So if you ask me if I would ever play, I will consider,
All right.
depending with who. Like, if you ask me, which you did,
Yeah.
my I would play it, but would I ever play it at an international level? Maybe not. Maybe not,
Okay.
because I would prefer to, stick to foam. I think I'm better at foam, and I want to excel in that.
Fair enough. All right, Carlos. I think that's a good end for our first conversation. I think we're going to have one in the future as well. Thanks for giving me a lot of your time. I hope the
No
listener will
problem.
enjoy your insights and keep doing your thing and
Thank
keep
you so much.
showing
Thank you for
those
having
young
me.
cards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I take inspiration from the players who are slightly aged out, such as yourself. We first met back in uh, we just met last year, right?
Yeah, so
But
we met
we had
like
a conversation last year. I knew who you were back in 2022. I thought you were a great player, and 2 years later, which was last year, you were still doing great. And then I find out that you actually have a family with kids, and you still manage to, separate your time between dodgeball and family and whatnot, and you're still able to play at a very high level, given with your life responsibilities. And that is something I look up to, because I would like to be that sort of person. I would like to be that sort of role model for a lot of the youngsters that are out there. And I think what you're doing is amazing. Plus, with this podcast, when I just got to find out that you were behind it, I'm like, wow, what can this man not do?
yeah, thanks so much. That's really nice to hear. And yeah, I hope at some point we get to play alongside each other or against each other, whether it's cloth or foam. I don't really care. I think it's probably better if you go over to cloth. My foam is getting closer to decent, but not somewhere where I can play with you yet. But I'll keep trying. And as you said, Cristiano Ronaldo, or for me, it's probably more Messi, but that is fine. All the guys like that. So I'm currently on the upswing again. I thought at 30 that my downswing has begun, but now I'm feeling younger than I did a few years ago. So
Yeah,
and I still try to learn new moves with my younger players and trying to adapt what I can and keep up. So maybe we get the chance at some point to play together. Would be
I
fun.
I will certainly hope so. I
Yes,
think the
man.
most important thing for me and you, or for everyone else who is listening, is to just keep moving forward.
Yeah,
Whether you're having a good time, whether you're having a bad time, just move forward. Always go again. Just do your best. Enjoy yourself. At the end of the day, it will all work out.
I love it. So keep throwing those balls. Try not to get caught and take care, everyone, with this wise words from Carlos.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope to see you guys soon.